2693, and there was another troop here. The other troop is 1172. Okay.
Please join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a prayer. God our Father, once again, we bow our heads to thank you, Amen, amen.
Very good. Thank you. Would you give these young leaders a hand, please? Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the adults and the leaders for seeing the purpose of studying government, showing them the importance of community. Hope you enjoyed the meeting. Thank you for being here. The next item is the approval of the agenda. I have two items that I would like to request additions. First addition under new business 8F. Discuss and/or take action on the school zone signage.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The second item for addition is discuss and/or take action of the Walmart development agreement changes.
Would that be 8G, Mayor?
It's new business, right, Mr. Lavorne?
Yes.
Okay. 8G?
Well, let's see, the other one was 8F, under new business.
Okay, so 8G.
8G, I guess. Move to approve.
We have a motion?
Second.
A second. Any discussion?
Yes, I don't have any information on that, and my vote will be no until I get that information. I understand some stuff was sent, but I did not receive it.
Well, if I may. Well, you're right, an email was sent out on it. The changes in the email, Commissioner Sutton, are the ones that we had requested Walmart to make, and they made them. So it's just coming back to us for approval of what we had already said we needed to be changed.
Don't you have any hard copy on that? And I apologize. Stuart had told me that we went out and I looked for it today and I couldn't find it. So
No, I'm just trying to add to your information pool. You do as you see fit.
This is our standard development, and we're section that was modified by Walmart. We had some problems with it. We told them we needed to change some language in it. They did.
So the only changes are things that we asked for,
Yeah, that's right.
nothing else.
This is on right there.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Any other additions or deletions for the approval of the agenda? What are the wishes of the board?
Approve the agenda. Move to approve.
We have first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is citizens' comments.
There are no citizens' comments tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 4 on the agenda is awards and recognitions.
Mayor, I'd like to recognize Representative Jeremy Durham and Senator Jack Johnson if he's here.
Senator Johnson could not be here tonight. He has the horrible duty of being at the CMA Awards, sitting about 3 seats down from Eric Church. So I hope we'll say a prayer for him and his family tonight. But I actually don't have a mail account yet, so Jack was nice enough to use the funds that he has for this type of thing to get a state seal. So we wanted to present it to you guys. I guess I'm doing it on behalf of him and from myself, but appreciate all the commissioners do. Thank you to the staff and all the folks in Fairview. Just want to give you all a seal and just thank y'all for all you do.
Excellent. Thank you so very much.
You're going to put it down here.
Maybe put right there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can you turn it around where folks can see it? I'm sure they, is it heavy?
That's kind of delicate.
Very good. Thank you again.
We'll take a picture after that.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mayor, I have one other. I'd like to recognize and introduce Mr. Kevin Holsinger, our new Community Services Supervisor. Kevin, if you'd stand up, you're more than welcome to come say a few words or just wave, however you want to do it.
Just glad to be here.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
That's all staff has.
All right. Any other awards or recognitions from the board? Moving on, number 5 is public announcements.
Mayor, I have one important announcement. Don't forget to set your clocks back 1 hour before you go to bed this Saturday night, or you'll be late or earlier. I'm not sure what you'll be, but you won't be on time with what you think you're going to do Sunday morning. So set your clocks back 1 hour.
Okay. I'd like to also highlight that we are having our fall clean sweep, a roadscape cleanup. That'll be Saturday. That is co-sponsored by Keep Williamson Beautiful and the Fairview Area Chamber of Commerce. They will meet at the Bank of America. Everyone in this room is invited to do your part from 8 to 12, a little part or all day. And if you just need to do your neighborhood, just know that we are focusing on keeping Fairview clean, showing our pride in our community. So if you can do your part, that's Saturday, the 3rd of November, 8 to 12, meeting at Bank of America. Also, without further ado, I would like to say that we have an extremely exciting celebration tomorrow. Fairview loves 840. Tomorrow we will be honored by the Governor's Motorcade. They will be leaving the Carters Creek Pike exit of the 840 and doing a motorcade down 840, driving the new area all the way to I-40 at Dixon. So if you are available between 1:30 and 2, there is a party going on at the exit of 840 and 100. Participate, any and all participation. Appreciate all participation. So if you can be there and wave to the governor as he passes the Fairview exit, just letting him know that we support him. We support the 840 long journey and the completion and the new opportunities that it'll open up to Fairview as 840 is open tomorrow at 1:30. Any other public announcements from the board? Next item is the approval of the minutes. The minutes presented is the October 4th Board of Commissioners meeting.
Move for approval.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is on old business, 7A, is update on City of Fairview projects. City Manager Hyatt, would you like to address any of those?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you.
Also, Mr. LaLorne will probably have some information. The welcome to Fairview signs has been put out for bid, and that will be opened up on, I believe it's Thursday the 8th, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Thursday the 8th. We also have a concern and waiting for TDOT to really respond for the location of the one on Highway 100. They have told us in recent days that any signage we put up in the right-of-way has to be of breakaway nature. So we're in discussions there now to get that solved. The other two pieces of signs are on our property, so there shouldn't be any problem there. It's just the one out on Highway 100 to the east of town. Street lighting, Don can speak a little bit more to that, and I'll let him in a minute. I was by Triangle School today. That project seems to be moving forward pretty quickly. They're working diligently to do what needs to be done, and for all signs point to an on-time completion of that project. The traffic signal, we've learned this week that we're probably looking at sometime in December or early January, so the poles had to be manufactured. We notified them, I believe it was on September 20th, so we're a little over a month into that process, so hopefully we'll be getting that accomplished and hearing some good news and seeing some progress on that in the next 45 to 60 days. Don, anything on the street lighting?
Streetlights, after the Board of Commissioners approved the original plan to go forward, I contacted Jeremy Fox at Middle Tennessee Electric, told him we was moving forward, and he said that they would probably start construction within a week or two, so it'll probably be next week when they start the construction and putting in the poles in and putting the lights up. He said everything that they had ordered is already in, and they were just waiting on us to make sure what we was doing, and so he said they'd probably proceed within the next week or so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the boards? Thank you for those updates. Item 7B, update on lighting plan change pertaining to Paulette Davidson, Fairview Boulevard resident. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a little update for the board and the city, and Don, I don't know if you knew it or not, but I've spoken with Jeremy Fox and with Commissioner Dwight Jones, and TDOT agreed for that light to be moved that was going to be right in her front door to the existing pole that was already on her property, and they made it clear that the city had the right to have any light moved at any time, that was done by a computer. They typed in a length in feet, and the computer just shot it out, and that's where they were. Nobody came out and looked at it or anything. Every light could be moved anywhere we wanted them to be, so it was very simple, and it will be done within the next 2 weeks, just as Don spoke of.
Wonderful. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
As we approve the other one, do we need to make an exception to approve this, or is it just...
The state made the change.
Okay.
Item 7C, discuss and or take action on TDOT Roadscape project. City Manager Hyatt.
Let me get some information here before me. The board had a previous meeting, and I don't have the date right in front of me, but it's been, I want to say almost a year ago or less. Let me get the minutes here. It was at the April 21st, 2011 meeting, so a little over a year, voted to not to accept the Roadscape grant as it was presented at the time. Either TDOT misplaced the information or they weren't notified in time, so they sent the information back out to us asking us if we still wanted it. So we're at a point where we need to just bring it back before you. I don't know if you want to vote on it or not. That's pretty much where we are now, to see if you want to. There's a couple options. Continue with the way we're going and totally reject their offer again, or to include the signs and landscaping at the 4 lanes for the project total of $86,226. Or we do have a third option of separating, pulling the signs out, having the grant revised, pull the signs out, pay for those separate, and go with just landscaping. So that if we did that, we'd be paying the full amount, obviously, for the signs, and then we'd have to come up with another match for the landscaping for the grant. So we pretty much want to know the direction you want to go and see how you want to proceed, or just leave it alone.
Mayor? If memory serves, Andrew, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there were a number of stipulations and expenditures that we were going to have to make that the grant was not going to cover, and that's why we chose not to participate.
That is correct.
Has anything changed in that regard, or would we still have those issues? And I want to, my mind keeps saying $30,000 worth of stuff. $50,000 worth of stuff. Has any of that changed, or would we still, in order to get $86,000, have to pay $50,000?
Don can address that. He spoke with Is Sean Bible done?
Well, I hadn't spoke to either Sean Bible nor Monique Hazelwood, but I've been in email back and forth between them. I emailed Sean Bible and Monique Hazelwood with the question, had anything changed from a year ago when we had met with Lowson Associates, which the state had contracted with for technical assistance for these grants. Got an email back from Monique Hazelwood, and she said that the technical assistance that Lowson Associates would provide for us would be up and including plans design. So one of the aspects of the grant that was going to cost so much was the design part of it. This new information that we've got now that this technical assistance includes plans design, which is at no cost to the city. The other portion of that was the environmental documents that the city would have to prepare and present to the state. The state is providing those environmental documents as well at no cost to the city. So I'd ask her about the contract actually includes the signs that we've been working on. So I'd asked her a question on the sign design, that we have a sign design, and if we could use that design, and then that's when she come back with the breakaway poles and things of that nature. And if it didn't include that, then we'd have to go back and redesign for that. So the other question was that I asked her was, can we change the scope of the work and take the signs out of it and only include the landscaping? And she responded that if we wanted to do that, then we just needed to have the mayor sign a letter wanting to change the scope of the work to include just the landscaping only. So the biggest costs were the environmental documents and the plans design that we'd have to spend up front. According to the documents that I got in front of me in this email, those costs are no longer going to be a burden to the city. So it looks like we're not going to have to spend that much up front to be able to use this grant.
And how much is our match?
20%,
Should be about 17.
17,000.
Which would be less than what we project spending on the signs.
Well, in his comment, if we separate, we'd still be doing the signs out of the monies that's been earmarked for signs.
But we could include the signs for the whole amount, right?
Well, we couldn't include the design that we have. We'd have to go back
It
into
wouldn't.
redesign of the signs.
Current expenses on the Griggs and Maloney on the design and all would be,
Lost.
Just out of curiosity, what does the sign look like?
Well, there's no design for it.
We haven't done it yet,
I was
It
in,
would
why
have-
can't you use it?
because it's got to be breakaway.
But that's only
Ours
if it's
are
inside,
stone.
that's only if it's inside the easement, correct?
No,
Inside the right of way.
Right.
Do what now?
Only if it's inside the right of way.
Oh, that's what I was,
Right.
how far are we inside the right of way?
On the sign to the east, we're probably 4 foot inside the right of way.
If it goes right where it currently is.
the
But
one
if
on
we move-
Highway
but if we move-
100.
Yeah.
Do what?
The one on Highway 100.
Correct.
Coming up the
Coming
hill.
up Whippoorwill Hill is the only one that's under consideration from TDOT as not being acceptable, but the current sign is not acceptable either.
Give this grandfather.
But
then
it's
they don't have to
grandfathered,
change it,
so
but-
it's not like
So-
they're making up something, it's just a new
So if we
rule.
were able to change that by 4 feet, we could go with the design plans we have.
Yes, sir.
Don, do all the signs have to be in the right of way since they're coming under the grant though?
That'd be another question we'd have to pose to Monique.
Since they're paying the money, it might have to be in the right of way.
Or why
don't know.
couldn't you pull out the one sign and include the other ones, and it lessens the cost of the signs?
I'd like to get the information on, does it have to be inside the right of way? Because if it's a matter of moving it 4 feet, I'm sure that we can work with the people that own some of that property out there, that we may be able to move that They've been nice enough to have it there all that time, save a lot of money. Either now or later, one way or the other, we're going to do it.
Do we have a deadline to respond?
No, it doesn't say. Doesn't give one. I would say we would have enough time to get all of those answers and bring it back to the next meeting.
And Don, one thing, to look at the right-of-way on that, if you could look at that, the least amount that we would have to have along that area right there, because I know it varies. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So just, you know, if we moved it back, would we still be in that area? Just, some more- you know what I'm asking for?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
About the only cost afterward would be upkeep. Now, just bear in mind that we already have a contract to mow the 4 lanes down there, and we do get, I believe it's $39,000 a year to do that. So we're kind of already taking care of that now, so that wouldn't be a huge additional cost. Obviously, watering them, replanting them, that type of thing would, if they died, and that sort of thing would be a concern. If somebody, you know, runs through them unbeknownst to us, or you know, we'd have to replace what was damaged. But you know, to me, it just seems like that's the only additional cost.
If I'm, and I may be mistaken, I don't know, but didn't we have a group that took care of the landscape out there for a while? That volunteered to do that?
Well, we
Around
had,
the sign?
As far as
Adopted, yeah,
beautification.
beautification. Didn't we have somebody that did that?
Not the specific sign, it was the roadway.
Okay.
Right.
well, there was different people over the years, like I know the Starks took care of the one, and
At one time, we had something like this.
Volunteer.
volunteers.
Well, one of the considerations in your time factor is you're opening bids on the 8th.
Correct.
And what kind of time do you have to respond to those bids?
I think we will have about a week to let them, because you will have to bring them back to you at the next commission meeting, so you'd have that much time. And I think, is there a little more time we could have to reject any and all bids or accept them, or?
Well, if you wanted to go forward to see if we could move the signs and use that, our design, if it's out of the right-of-way, and we can still use the grant, you can decide that you want to postpone the opening of the bids until we get that information back to you. You can postpone it for a month, you can postpone it for 2 or 3 weeks, and you could have a special call meeting to review the bids if you wanted to. And it's up to you all how you want to proceed.
You don't think they could tell us that in a week?
Well, hopefully, I could get a response from them tomorrow. When I first sent them the emails, I wasn't getting a response from either person for a couple of days, and then finally I got a response from them. So, I mean, I can try to email them first thing in the morning or email them tonight before I leave, hoping that they will get the email tomorrow morning and respond to it. Then I can send out an email to each one of y'all and let you know if we could use the grant with those signs being out of the right-of-way.
It was I'm sorry, I've looked at it before. What's the cost, was it the cost on the design of that sign?
I don't really know right off the top of my head what the
Last
cost
it was $3,600, but I don't think that was a final bill.
I don't think so. Do you have any idea what we paid? Okay.
We could have some other consideration as well. Vice Mayor has mentioned many times as far as putting it onto the city property, and that could be another consideration that, you know, can't necessarily be discussed on tonight, but it could be another consideration of what if that's what the change means for us to move forward. Now, we do have, as I shared with City Manager and Mr. Griggs, I'm not in favor of postponing or rejecting bids because we have went through this process for a quite lengthy time, and to get to the bid process and it be something satisfactory, that will help us in a decision of we're at this point, let's move forward and ask for a scope change. Whereas if the bids come in and it's an astronomical number, we know that we've got an issue in front of us that we thought it would be around the 20,000 mark, give or take. If that number is exorbitantly larger, we then may look at the grant as a extreme important gift that we need to consider.
Maybe I misunderstood. The bids open on the 8th, right?
Correct.
And how long will they stay open?
No, they'll be opened as far as somebody will,
Right, that's the bid opening.
The bid has already been advertised.
We typically would bring that back to you the next meeting,
On
which
the
would be
15th.
the 15th, correct. But we could postpone opening the bids for 30 days, but I kind of do agree
I
with the
see no,
mayor.
I see
There's
no
no
gain
advantage to that.
and all lost on not knowing.
I think I agree with the mayor that the more information that we have on the 15th, the better off we are.
Or
You
prior.
can reject the bids
Or
at that point once they've been submitted to you.
We could reject it like we did with the Greenway.
Correct.
And-
If we see a scope change as a best direction,
Yeah.
then we can, the scope change would be asking if we take the signs and the beautification of the median and separate it, just like we did the Greenway and the handicap around Lake Van. So that's an option. Being able to say, we've got our bids, we've got our sign, we and TDOT discuss this location, 4 feet, wherever we move forward, I think we're right at getting enough information, whereas we've got to keep digging before we can say one way's the best way. This grant was gone in April of 2011 as far as we were presented and voted on. It came back as a questionnaire, and then they sent us a contract for the money. And that's why I brought it to city manager's attention and Mr. Griggs, and to say this is something we need to look at a second way and in a complete different, with different glasses on, I think.
Well, I'm sorry. I think then what, I'm happy to make the motion that we defer this decision until the 15th, and that we go ahead and open the bids and bring that information back on the 15th, along with the additional information that Don can acquire, and we'll just make the decision on the 15th.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New business, 8A, discuss and or take action on recommendations from the Planning Commission. Director Lavorne.
Planning Commission has sent 2 recommendations.
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is. 2 recommendations from the October 9th meeting. The first is a recommendation for amending the sign ordinance relative to computerized digital signs. We didn't have anything in the ordinance giving us the ability to regulate how the signs operated. Planning Commission voted to add some language under 11-109.2, computerized digital signs, illumination and brightness, computerized or digital signs during daytime hours shall have a maximum lighting density of 7,500 nits, and during nighttime hours have a maximum lighting of 750 nits. All electric digital signs shall have installed ambient light monitors and shall at all times allow such monitors to automatically adjust the brightness levels of the sign based on ambient light conditions. Written certification from the sign manufacturer must be provided at the time of application of the permit, certifying that the light intensity of the sign has been preset not to exceed the illumination levels established by this ordinance, and that the preset intensity levels be protected from end-user manipulation by password-protected software. And under new section, message duration, image shall remain static for a maximum or a minimum of 8 seconds, and the image change and scrolling shall be accomplished within 2 seconds or less. Image shall not flash nor include sudden blast of light or contain continuous scrolling and animation over 2 seconds in length. You have an ordinance that's prepared for you. This was sent for recommendation by the Planning Commission. All those in favor, it was unanimous.
How does that impact those that we already have?
That gives us the ability to regulate those with this ordinance. Though the conditions of the signs, the durations and things like that wouldn't be a grandfathered thing. This is more of a policing effort.
So what are you saying would be grandfathered?
That wouldn't be grandfathered. The way that the signs are operating right now wouldn't be grandfathered in by this ordinance. It'd be retroactive, that we could enforce this on those. We're not asking them to take the sign down. We're not asking them to reduce the sign size. We're just asking them to control it in this manner.
But you are requiring them to add a piece of equipment at their
Well,
expense.
that would only include the new ones that come on. Far as the password protected software, that would be anything new that came in. We wouldn't enforce that, because that would be enforcing something extra that they wasn't aware of. We try to tell everybody that we have written permits for, that they needed to control their signs with the same intensity that this ordinance is setting forth, but we didn't really have any teeth to stand behind it and say this is what you have to do because it's in writing. It was just something that we had adopted internally from TDOT's regulations on those type of signs. But it wasn't in an ordinance, so if somebody contested it, they wouldn't have to comply with it because we didn't have something to stand behind. This only gives us the ability to go out there and say, you have to have a static, your message has to stay static 8 seconds, and it has to make a change within 2 seconds and stay static another 8 seconds before it makes a change again. Right now, if I tell them that, they don't really have to abide by it because it's not in the ordinance.
But at the time that they placed these signs, that ordinance, that requirement didn't exist, and their sign may or may not have that capability.
All computerized digital signs has the ability to be changed in light intensity and duration. It's a software that every sign has, and it can be set up. We've talked to the contractors that installed those signs, and we've told them we've got issues with them. And he said that it's an engineering thing that is something that they have to work out within the software. It can be done, they just got to figure out how they got to do it. That's what we've been told by the ones that have installed the signs.
So if we pass this and the owner either wouldn't or couldn't comply, then what would be the penalty?
I have to defer that to our attorney.
You'd write a citation to city court, maximum fine $50 per day for each day that you violate the ordinance. In other words, you'd have to go out and write them another citation. But it's my understanding that the intensity is they're capable of that. If he can come in and convince that it couldn't, then he'd have to ask for a variance, saying that, I bought this sign, the ordinance didn't require it, and I can't do this. But the things that it won't have, that ones that they've already bought, would be the automatic adjusting when the ambient light is down, and the software protecting me from changing it, because those are not cost prohibitive, but they're somewhat expensive. But if they're designed in the sign from the start, obviously it would be much cheaper. But I think most of those signs are going to have the capability of, you have the right to police the signs. What's grandfathered is the location and the size of the sign. But you have a right in the interest of safety under the policing power to say that you're going to have to turn these signs down to some intensity. And the penalty would be, every day you go out there and write them a citation, maximum fine's $50, but that can run up into some money if you do it often enough. And, well, obviously, if it becomes obvious that you won't comply, then there is another remedy. You go to the Chancery Court and get a restraining order. It wouldn't be the point in getting a restraining order, because that's to avoid an imminent disaster, but you get an injunction against this sign having this kind of intensity. Take a light meter and you go out there and you read it, and if it's above that, then you go back and let the chancellor deal with him, and he can get your attention in a hurry. It's a lot more than $50 a day.
Would there be a timetable for when they would have to have this accomplished, the current signs, 30 days, 60, 90?
That would be up to the codes administrator, because you wouldn't put that in your ordinance.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may.
Oh, certainly.
I've talked to our local sign maker down here that has put in several of these. I think the middle school, the elementary school up here has got one. And one of the subjects that we're talking about has the appropriate product en route. It has to come from where it's located, which is, I don't know, China, Japan, wherever it's at. And it's a long process to get here, but it has been ordered. I was also told by him that the new ones that have just been ordered come with that program. So it's not it's going to be a matter of, eventually we're going to have it all under control anyway, or be able to control it to compliance with that. But there are some that if they've been ordered 6 months, a year ago, they don't have that. They didn't come with it. So, whatever we do, we just need to take that in consideration, that it's not like you're going to fly at UPS tomorrow night. It takes time for them to build it and plug it into that system. So I don't want to do anything that's going to penalize somebody that's in that process of trying to fix it. And from the information that I've got, both the two major ones want to fix it. So.
Larry, what obligation does the city have if, let's say, we know it's a problem, we've heard complaints, and we don't do anything to fix it? I mean, as we sit here, and we know there's a problem that's existing, are we liable if somebody goes down the street and wrecks, or who's liable for?
Well, the first thing they would have to establish is that what is the level that is safe. Second thing they would have to establish is that this sign is not at that level. Third thing we'd have to establish is that the light was a direct proximate cause of the wreck. I could have had the wreck for many, many, many reasons. Then they would go after the owner. If they went after the city, we've got an ordinance that doesn't regulate that. If we adopt this one, we've got one that does. We're in the process of trying to get this done. It comes under the Tort Claims Liability Act. Under the Tort Claims Liability Act, the city is not, or the government in general, the immunity has not been removed for lawsuits for failure to act, as strange as that may sound. You're going to show it some sort of gross negligence or something. Most likely, the odds are the city would be discharged from the lawsuit, unless they could prove that you allowed the sign to go up, you knew it was wrong, you participated in it, this type of thing. If we're trying to correct it, I mean, it's like if they've got to get something in here to do this, the sign's not, it's capable of doing it, but not with what they've got. Then, and you're working on that, then you're not negligent. You're trying to correct the problem. You realize the problem came in, because I'm not sure that until somebody saw this thing that they were aware how bright it was. And then you're setting up an objective standard as to what the level of light is acceptable under the ordinance. Now, could I say that's too much light? Sure, I can always say that that's too much light. You get suits filed every year because street light was out. You get suits filed every year because a stop sign was down. You get suits filed every year because there was a stumbling block in the sidewalk. But those type of things, that's cost of business that's a probability you have when you operate a city. What's too bright for you might not be too bright for me. Might not be bright enough. I might have a vision problem. But somewhere you reach a happy medium, and apparently this is pretty well standard. There's some people who have the maximum intensity of the lights, believe it or not, is less than what we're proposing here. But if you get it down, you can get it down so low that in essence you're prohibiting signs. So to answer your question, could you be sued? Sure, you can always be sued. But you've got a pretty good defense. You're taking some steps. You're trying to correct it. You're in the process of correcting it. First of all, how am I going to prove that was the direct proximate cause of my wreck? I mean, it could be lots of things. You see cars, the state has standards for the maximum illumination factor from your headlights. If I have night blindness, you may be perfectly legal with your headlights, and it causes me a problem. Was the problem your headlights? No, I had a physical problem. So, I don't see any way that you can operate and not have potential liability for a lawsuit.
Well, I don't understand where the discussion's going, but I don't understand why it would be a problem to put in place some guidelines, because obviously there has been some concerns from different people. I have a concern. I mean, it caught my eye the other night, and all of a sudden, boom, there was somebody walking down the side of the highway. And I thought, felt like it was very dangerous and he could have been hit. So, I'm not for banning or, I'm not saying that we want to, we are in discussions on signs and what we're going to do in the future. This is up. We thought the regulations were in place. We found out that we really could not enforce those regulations. So all we're doing now is having an ordinance done where we can enforce it. It's not necessarily trying to take anything away. It's just trying to make it safe for the citizens.
A couple of things that bother me. I don't have any problem with us regulating from this point forward. I have a problem that, one, this is not about all the signs. This is about one sign. And at least that's the only complaints that I've gotten, is this is about the Jingo sign. Two, as I ride around town, we have a lot of obstructions in terms of bushes and other things that we don't ask those people to adjust that cause as much or many more accidents. And I haven't seen any data, and maybe we don't have it or maybe we do, but I haven't seen any data that indicates that the electronic signs are causing accidents in our city. In fact, when I looked on the internet to try to find any data at all that gave them as a high percentage of proximity signs in causing accidents, it actually was not a very high percentage. So I have a concern that we're regulating something based upon, just as the city attorney described, one person's opinion versus another. And if there is no cost involved, if the individuals that have already invested in these signs can do this at no cost, I think you ask them to do it. Hopefully they would be reasonable people and they would work with us to do it. Then we might want the teeth. But if we're going to impose something on these people that requires them to remake their sign or redo something because they don't have the capability to judge the lumens and all of that stuff from where they are, I don't think we can do that. And I can't vote for that because I think that's changing the rules after you've played. Paid to play. So if we want to work the sign issue, I would vote for it tonight for the future. I think we have some work to do about how we deal with the existing ones. But if we're going to fix road obstructions, let's fix them all. They'll all out the city. And let's get some chainsaws, and let's get some signs that are not illuminated that are blocking people's way to see. And let's just clean it all up. Let's just segregate our efforts on one particular part of the problem. Because if our motivation is going to be traffic, safety of traffic, then we have a lot of issues that fall underneath that. And I can vote for the electronic signs, but I can also vote for the other signs too. And the other trees and the people that don't cut their grass that's 15 inches high, 20 inches high, that you can't see around.
With point of order, we have the discuss and/or action on recommendations from the sign workshop. As presented, we have a recommendation from the Planning Commission Motion recommended to the Board of Commissioners to amend the sign ordinance relative to the computerized digital signs. That was a unanimous vote, and the ordinance is before us. What are the wishes of the board?
So moved. Right.
We have a motion. I second. Discussion?
I go ahead and put mine out there, like I said, I've already talked to them about the future signs that are coming in, has that program built into them, which it should have had, but technology, as we all know, is created tomorrow, not today, was coming up. I do know that that individual, and I've checked with him and the person that he bought it from, that is on order, and he does want to comply. The only objection I have to some of the restrictions that you have there is that we absolutely have to give a time frame in there that they're able to do that. We can't just say, well, to it tomorrow, we're going to turn your sign off, or we're going to start fining you $50 a day. That's not fair whatsoever. I've had complaints from the elementary school sign too, because it's got the same color blue that jumps out at you. And I think the biggest problem is where it comes from white to blue, is where it's coming in at. So we've got somebody now that's just willing to work with us and do what they need to do. And from my understanding, it will be able to take those lights down to the regulations that we're discussing right now. But as the vice mayor stated, you know, when a man goes out and asks to put a sign up and we say okay, and he spends $30,000 on it, we need to be very considerate in when we're asking him to change it, because I don't know that it would handle, would stand up in Chancery Court.
Well, like I said, every time anybody has got a permit for that type of sign, I've told them these regulations, that this is how we want the sign to operate, and they say fine, that we can do that.
But have we had those numbers in there before?
I've told them 8 seconds static, 2 seconds change every time.
I'm talking about the nits.
No, not the nits. I'm talking
And that's
about
the brightness of it, right?
Yeah, that's the brightness of it.
And that's what the problem is. I don't get complaints about it.
The changes.
Yeah.
The changes is
Yeah,
also a
exactly.
concern.
Because it's so bright, it's a
Because it's so
flash.
bright.
It's a flash.
And that's where the problem is coming from. So, you know, we didn't have that regulation in there. If we're going to do anything at all, we need to guarantee that we're going to give them time to change.
Oh, we're not going to go out there tomorrow.
But you could.
But we're not. I mean.
But you could.
We've sent them a letter asking them to take care of the signs. And, you know, those letters probably went out 3 weeks ago. We haven't even followed up on the letters that we've sent out. I mean, it's not something that the codes department is just chomping at the bit to turn somebody's sign off. That's not what we're all about. We want to work with them. We want them to work with us. And, you know, I think we're pretty lenient when it comes to trying to work with business owners and helping them provide for the signage that they want and things of that nature. But when you get call after call after call after call with people saying, you know, that it's a hindrance in their driving, then, you know, we probably do need to do something to regulate.
I agree with you 100%. We just need to do it in a timely manner that's not.
I mean, we could give them 90 days. I don't know how long it's going to take to get the parts in, but.
Well, that's something you could talk to the manufacturer and distributor for, and they can give you that approximate date. You know, we just had I'm sure that we slowed some shipping down with that Hurricane Sandy that just came through, so that's some of it's inevitable, but we need to be fair about it. I don't care who it is or what it is. We need to be fair and consistent about everything we do. Nobody, I'm sure, knew how bright that was going to be. Sitting that low to you didn't know, I didn't know, the people who bought it didn't know, and probably the people who sold it didn't know how bright it's going to show up on a dark night. So I just think if we're going to put regulations in, fine. For everybody, that's fine, but they need to have time to be able to correct that. And it needs to be in a time we shouldn't be able to say. And I don't want to, nothing against you, but I don't want to put the authority out there that says you can shut them down tomorrow.
The simple solution, Commissioner, is to, if it's the board's wishes, as part of the action, if you wanted to pass it on first reading, and between the first and second reading, we amend the ordinance to say this ordinance shall become effective 5/1/2013, 4/1/2013. That gives you.
I don't have a problem with that.
So that gives you 6 months. you could pass it on first reading, it wouldn't be substantially changing the ordinance, you'd just be changing the effective date. Because I don't like to have ordinances laying around that says we got an ordinance, but we're not going to enforce it. And between now and the second reading, we just amend it to say the ordinance shall become effective 4/1/2013. If that's what the board desires, that's 6 months. And if somebody comes in after that and says, I've had mine ordered since October and it hadn't gotten here, then we come back to the board and maybe we need to amend the ordinance again, give them another 2 months. But that would be a simple solution. That way you don't have a subjective thing, you've got a very objective date. The people that want to respond, if they've got 6 months to respond, come in and says, I've tried, I've ordered it, here's my order confirmed, but I haven't gotten anything yet.
And if you choose to do that, we can always send each sign owner a letter stating that this ordinance has been passed and it will go into effect this day. If you need to order any equipment to cause this change in your signage, you've got, this amount of time.
Both of them are currently working on that, didn't you say?
I know that the one is working on it. I know that I've checked with him and the manufacturer and the
Both
distributor.
of them are currently
They both have
underway
said
to make sure they fit.
the way to do it. And
Yes,
people don't realize there's a lot of those signs in this city.
Yes.
It's not just 2 or 3 that we're talking about. There's a lot of them, and I don't know how many of them are going to have to be adjusted. I'm not just saying this one, but I know that there's, Snappy's had a sign out here for a long time. And when they first put it up, I thought the police was sitting out there every morning about 5 o'clock because just the way, the brightness that it wasn't. So there's a lot more than just 1 or 2 signs that we're going to have to be concerned with as far as giving them an ample opportunity to correct those things because they're expensive. And we approve them.
I think you're also going to have to order a meter so that the codes will have a meter that they can check them with, because if I look at a sign and I say, I think that's 7,600 nits, and you say, no, I think it's 7,300 nits, we need to have something that says, you're both wrong, it's 7,400.
Well, they've got me because I don't know what a nit is anyway. I know it's bright. So, they're going to have to find out something
It's a
smart.
measurement of light, just like luminaire.
Yeah, I knew you'd know, Larry. But,
I was incorrect, it's a measurement of light intensity.
thought it was above. Yeah.
Other discussion?
Should we consider deferring this to the next meeting? I see this as a pretty controversial item, and with the election between now and the next meeting, it is possible you would have a different board constituted up here. So should we, for first and second reading, have the same board pass on it?
I believe that my full-time job has become educating people who to call when they have a sign complaint. So continuing deferring it, if you give me permission to give them your phone number, that might be an option. But I
I've been
believe
getting
that
the
the
calls too,
citizens, I believe that the citizens have spoke loudly. I believe that there is a dire concern, whether it be this one or others, that we address something of safety without looking at a future liability, even though it may not be something that would stand up. I'm looking at a letter that was handed me today. These signs are dangerous. I've had epilepsy. I'm fearful to drive down the road. Those kind of things you don't just ignore as leaders in a city. It's something that I believe every one of us are getting calls on, and I believe if we defer it and put it off, granted, the wording may not be as said. The only thing that I've heard of objection is the grandfathered signs, that they had time to comply. It's been addressed that they are trying to comply currently, and to defer something, I would feel like I was being irresponsible to the citizens. Other discussion?
I move to defer.
We have a first and second. Are you amending the motion?
Yes, I amend the motion to defer until the 15th.
We have a motion of deferral. No other action. We look at the original motion. We have a first and a second. Other discussion?
I have another amendment that we include all signs that cause road obstruction.
It's computerized digital signs being asked by the Planning Commission to be, how is it stated?
Right, and I'm offering an amendment that we include, if the basis is going to be public safety, that we include all signs.
How do we address a recommendation from the Planning Commission that's addressing relative to computerized digital signs? Direction, Mr. Cantrell?
I think what you have is, you have a study committee out there that's looking at the sign ordinance in general.
Correct.
This particular part is just a portion that was of particular concern of the Planning Commission about electronic signs. You've got two different animals here. You've got one that's, you had a motion on the floor regarding an electronic signs, and you've got a motion about all signs. So what you need to do is vote on the motion on the electrical signs, and then vote on the motion for all signs, and send that motion back to the committee, which is looking at all signs anyway.
Correct.
So but you've got a motion on the floor. If you want to amend it to include all signs, you can amend that motion for all signs, but that portion would go back to the committee, and you still need to consider what came from the Planning Commission, either voted up or voted down.
The Planning Commission is currently under review and have had 2 workshops on the sign ordinance. So that is being done currently, and that's open to the public.
Okay.
So you're we're doing what you're asking. Would you like to vote on that?
I would like for this board to make a statement to that effect, either yea or nay, that we are going to address other types of signs as well.
We are currently doing that under workshop settings through the Planning Commission.
I understand that, but the board has the authority to instruct the Planning Commission to include that. What I'm asking is that we're not giving the Planning Commission the authority to determine there's no change needed. The motion I'm making is that they will, and they can come back at a later meeting, but they will come back addressing all signs
And
that
that's
have
being
to comply.
discussed. That is being discussed.
Discussion is not what, I understand that, Beverly. What they are doing is discussing it. I'm saying that we are instructing them to come back with the changes to the ordinance that will include all signs. That's my motion.
You can vote on that motion, and then that would go to the Planning Commission.
And
You
they
still
would
have-
then come, they would be required to come back with their changes. They don't have the option to discuss it and dismiss it.
We have a motion on the floor for referring to the Planning Commission to discuss all signs. Do I hear a second?
If I may be out of order, we can't do both at one time. You already said that once.
I agree.
Well, you have a recommendation from the Planning Commission. You're going to have to act on that. Now, you don't have to accept it, but you're going to have to act on it. You also have a motion to act on all signs. They're 2 separate motions. This was to amend that motion to include all signs. That portion, if it's passed, would go back to the Planning Commission for a study and response to this board. Then you would have a vote on the electronic sign recommendation that the Planning Commission sent up here, which I was told to prepare an ordinance for. I was not told to prepare an ordinance for the other because I didn't know it exists. But it would go back to the Planning Commission with the instruction from this board to look at all signs. Then they would make another recommendation and send it back up here at a later date when they get finished.
I second that motion. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That we refer to the Planning Commission to review all signs.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is discuss and/or action for the recommendation from the Planning Commission to amend the side ordinance as prevailed. We have a first and second. Other discussion?
I'd like to make an amendment if possible, that we amend this to show that no action will be taken during the next 6 months by the Codes Department pending notification and opportunity for anyone to make the proper adjustments. And I'll stop there, and that would also give them the right to come back before the Board of Adjustments and Appeals if they're not, if they don't comply.
For grandfathered signs, correct?
Current signs that don't apply right now, they don't have the means to do it, so I'll just stop.
Motion on the floor for amendment of no action to be taken within 6 months on grandfathered signs.
Second to that.
Any discussion?
If you're going to pass that on first reading, you'll need to read the caption.
All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Original motion was to accept recommendation from the Planning Commission on the sign ordinance.
Thank you. Bill number 2012-14, ordinance number 793, an ordinance to amend City of Fairview, Tennessee Municipal Zoning Sign Ordinance, Section 11-109, permanent signs, subsection 11-109.2, computerized digital signs.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mayor, I will amend that before the second reading to include the 6 months delay.
Thank you.
May I have just another, I won't change anything, but when we send that back to them, that also needs to include any line of sight items. I know down on Chester Road, down there at the second stop sign, down by the Parhams down there, there's a house over on the right-hand side. You cannot see to pull out unless you pull 15 feet out toward the road. It's an extremely dangerous spot right there, so we need to look at all that.
You're right.
Whenever we do it.
That's part of workshop. Look forward to our next one. 8B, discuss and or take action on preparing a bid package for the completion.
Mayor.
I'm so sorry.
We've got another recommendation.
I'm so sorry. I moved on. 8-1.
Rezoning application for a property located at 2725 Fairview Boulevard from RS40 to CG, Commercial General. This was voted on unanimously by the Planning Commission, recommending that property be rezoned to Commercial General. That's the Fast Pace Medical Clinic. They brought us a site plan to the Planning Commission to incorporate that piece of property into the property that is the clinic, and they're going to put in a nice parking lot, pave, curb, stripe, and they're actually going to upgrade their building to our new design standards with an addition to the building, a 1,400 square foot addition.
How many?
1,400.
Move for approval. Second.
First and second, any discussion?
The only action that you'll be taking will be approving me to prepare those documents tonight. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Discuss and or take action on preparing bid package for the completion of the insulation and wiring of Triangle School. Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. We have been in contact with Dr. Rice about the project, and the city manager has already alluded to the fact that this is moving right along, and to keep from falling behind in the scope of this project, we just wanted to get this brought to the engineer's attention so he can start the process. Mr. Sutton, you want to add anything? No, that's fine. We just need to move forward with it. This has been going on for several years. I would like to see us come to a conclusion sometime very shortly. I think the citizens deserve that. We've put a lot of money into it. I think it's a very worthwhile project, and it just needs to come to attrition and get it done, because there's a lot of things planned for that area out there that we may move forward and see. So,
I realize it's a great project. I'm looking forward to the completion as well. Can you share with me where in the budget, where in the budget is this part of the project?
Dr. Rice, could you come speak to the amount of funds?
Maybe, I didn't do it for
He's having trouble walking. Well, bring Charlie with you. Come on.
My question was if it's at the expense of the city, what part of the budget?
Okay, I'm not sure what.
No, it wasn't addressed, but you are welcome to speak and tell us about your fundraising. I hear great things.
Let me do that after you done this, okay? I
You're fine.
certainly want to tell you about that. If I can make it here. You okay?
Mayor, to answer your question, it would have to be placed in under a new line item, but it would not be done until we find out how much it was going to cost. Because that's what preparing this bid package is going to be, it's just to give us an estimated cost of what it would cost to have it done.
So the engineering fees for preparing the package is what you're requesting?
Correct.
Okay,
Great.
now I can speak?
Welcome. Yes, sir.
Okay. I would move, Commissioner Johnson, in addition to that it would be assumed that these things would be paid for. There's no purpose in preparing bid specifications and the what's it called, engineer doing his work and so forth, and then advertising and that sort of thing. With all of that, there's an assumption it's going to be paid for. Would that not be right?
That would be my assumption.
I would think so. Okay. All right, so proceed. Now let me tell you about our fundraiser. And if any of you is available Monday, anybody has a pickup truck, and probably all of you do, please see me at the end of the meeting. On December the 1st, the Fairview Historical Association is having an antique auction. All items have been donated. And we have some absolutely wonderful, wonderful items, including an 1830s Tennessee black cherry sugar chest, which should bring enough to buy a mighty fine used car. Should. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces of wonderful glassware, good pottery, good quilts, interesting primitives. It will be an all-day sale. It will be at David Hudgens Gallery in Centerville. We attempted to get it in Fairview, but weren't successful. But that's going to be just fine. It's already all over the internet. The Heritage Foundation is assisting us in promoting it through their website, their deep-pocketed, blue-blooded membership list. And there's a third source that they are using. I don't recall it right now. But the sale is at 9 o'clock, immediately across from Homestead Restaurant in Centerville. That's just maybe a mile past Fishing Camp
Road.
Restaurant. Fish Camp Restaurant. But it's going to be a tremendous auction. I've been very, 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 very involved. Monday we're going to begin moving the items from here to Centerville. They're in storage. We've had storage units donated to us for a couple years, and we anticipate a good sale. But certainly we'll be using all of those funds at the Triangle site. There's a bridge to be built connecting, and sidewalks to be done, and parking lots to be built, and all kinds of things. So we are going to need the funds from the city to finish up Triangle. Let's get that done. Let's get that done. Goodness sakes, there are several things that are in the works if we just had money. But right now, this is the urgent thing. Let's get the bid, let's get it wired, let's get it insulated, let's get it paid for, and let's get it open. It certainly won't get open if those things don't get done and get paid for. So please consider that as you deliberate or discuss it. Anything more you'd like to ask me? Okay, I've been working on furniture all day long. That's what standing on concrete. That's where I got cereal.
Thank you, Dr. Rice.
His main reasoning, Mayor, with the wiring is mid-state. is going to put in the heating and air unit, and they've donated the entire thing, and he's going to hook everything up for free as well as soon as that can get done. So it's going to do him no good to come out and run all the duct work and that if he doesn't have any electricity. So we're just looking at moving the project along.
Totally understand, and as Dr. Rice and I spoke 2 years ago about the project, Midstate was waiting to do their installation and they're free. So I'm very, very excited that they are still willing to participate and assist.
Yes, let me backtrack just a little bit again, Commissioner Johnson. Dr. Robert Clark at church on Sunday told him that the structural work was nearly finished. And I said, if we can just get permission from the commissioners, and certainly can't imagine why we couldn't, you can go ahead and complete your donation. You see, he said he does not have to have it wired, actually, to put it in, and it would be greatly to his advantage to put it in before the ceiling and everything gets sprayed full of insulation, and he has to mess around in that. Not, you can understand. So he really is next. But that's okay, because it's going to take some time to get the bid process done and all that kind of thing done. So let's go ahead and approve this thing. Let's get it wired. Let's approve getting it wired and insulated. Let's let Robert go ahead now that the structural work is done, put in his duct work and whatever. And we're in business.
You know I support the project.
I know you do.
2 years ago, I said the place you are, you shouldn't be. You've started this 5 years prior, and it didn't seem like you were getting a participation. The project was not going forward, and you were at a standstill, what I'd call a gridlock.
We've had two one-year
Right.
stoppages.
Right, and the purpose of that was because of the structural pieces.
Right.
So it's taken me 2 years to get you to this space. Not going to let you down now.
All right.
So it's very interesting that our commissioners are bringing up to keep the project on task. Without being negative, I just believe that everybody should have been with you many years ago to help you get it on task versus being in a grid wall between the historical Triangle School and the city. We have a motion on the floor?
Second.
Do we have a motion on the floor? And you second it?
Yeah, he put the motion on
Other
the floor.
discussion?
Will you repeat the motion?
Repeat the motion?
It is a motion to have Don or the city manager instruct the engineer to get the bid package together.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. 8C, discuss and or take action on letter of intent with Energy Architects. City Manager Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. A little over a week ago, the mayor and I met with Mr. John Sturgeon with Solar Project Development to discuss an opportunity that he was bringing to us for some solar panels to be put on city property, city buildings. After further review, we found that we have basically two buildings that would fit the requirement that they have. It is kind of loud, isn't it?
It is.
To fit the requirement that they place out there, and that would be this one and the fire station. What we have before us tonight, and Mr. Sturgeon is here with a couple of slides, and he can answer any questions a lot more intelligently than I can. But what we have is a letter of intent, which would just kind of tie us together a little bit, and I'll let you explain that even further if you don't mind, and then you can kind of just go through what you told the mayor and I.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Just to preface the letter of intent, we have a non-binding letter of intent that allows us to proceed with some of the activities that help us determine if these are good locations or not. And this will be explained just a little bit further as I go through this brief slide presentation, just to basically educate you as to how this approach works. You can go to the next slide. Just a little brief background. Our company is a strategic solar development company. And so our focus is primarily working with nonprofit organizations that could not normally afford to purchase solar. They'd love to have it if they had money, but it's still relatively expensive. And we have a group of investors that, for their reasons, because they can take advantage of all the tax breaks, so it doesn't, when we implement one of these programs, it doesn't cost the city anything. We bear all the capital expenditure for it. Actually, our investors provide 100% of the capital for the project to not only build the project, but to maintain it. TVA has some requirements, the largest system that we're able to install in their Green Power Providers program, where they pay a premium of 12 cents over the base rate. You know, probably electricity here is costing us 10 cents a kilowatt hour. TVA will pay 22 cents for any power brought into the grid. So, that's a quite interesting funding mechanism. And that makes this program actually work. All of the incentives for solar across the United States are all tax incentives. There's a federal 20 or 30% federal tax incentive. There's, through the end of this year, there's a 50% bonus accelerated depreciation of the asset. And Tennessee does have they waive the sales tax on it, so there's not too much there. But the primary interest to the investors would be these tax incentives, which can effectively, in their eyes, offset about half the cost of installing the system. Now, if the city as a nonprofit were to purchase a system on their own, they wouldn't qualify for any of that, so your return on investment would be about 18 years. To participate in this program, we typically just want to install the largest system we can. These systems have about 200 solar panels, and they can either be ballast mounted on a flat roof. They're just sitting there. You don't really have any roofs that qualify for that, or they can be ground mounted. So I've given you a couple of pictures there. They can be one of your fire hall. It has a pitched roof. There's a couple of pitched roofs there that we think would probably qualify for work. The site has to be available for at least 20 years. Typically, we do a lease on this. We kind of lease the ground, so to speak, and it's a revenue sharing model. Here is kind of a little diagram chart of the stakeholders. You see at the top there, the investors provide 100% of the capital. They also are able, because they're leasing it, and they own the system for 20 years. So because of that, they're able to take advantage of the tax breaks. And the really key ingredient here is that, let's say on a project that was $100,000, because they're going to get that 30% tax credit, they apply that to the principal on the front end. So the only part that's actually the lease payment is based on 70% of the amount. And that's very meaningful, because the TVA payments then are substantially higher than that lease payment. So it becomes a revenue source to the municipality from day one. Now, the reason I put this chart up here is that you see Energy Architects, we're kind of in the middle. So we have people that work with investors. That's a constantly changing world out there. We all come from a solar construction industry background. So when we have an agreement with the municipality, then we would hire a solar contractor that would actually do all of the work. The interesting thing about this, and why you don't really see this in Tennessee, is that there's about 25 states that that the utility has a power purchase agreement where they will allow those energy credits, the money, to go directly to the person who owns the system, somebody who's leasing the system. So you see this a lot in California, a lot in New Jersey, a lot of other states. But TVA will not, their power purchase agreement doesn't do that. They will only send those credits to the person who owns the meter, the building, in this case the municipality. So most leasing companies, when they hear that, it's kind of like watching the Shark Tank show on Friday night. They say, I'm out. You know, they won't even, you can't get into the discussion. So we do have some people who do nothing but invest in solar and recognize that this is a good model. Obviously, if you're dealing with people you trust, and we feel like the municipalities and school districts and organizations like that, you're going to be around in 20 years, and that's a key thing to them. So you can see at the bottom there, the Green Power Providers Program that TVA has right now, through the, they're changing the program. They've had this program in a pilot form since 2004 called Generation Partners, and it was just changed the 1st of October to Green Power Providers. And they're making some other changes. Right now the premium is 12 cents per kilowatt hour above the base. In January that's going to go down to 9 cents. And if you think about it this way, those are the monies that are meaningful to you as a city, because that's the part that is the difference. So the higher that spread is, the more the city makes on the partnership. So for us to be able to get a Green Power Providers application into TVA through Middle Tennessee Electric, their last day to do this is the 15th of November. So it's coming pretty fast. So here's what would need to happen if you all are interested. We have, as the city manager has mentioned, I've left him a copy of a non-binding letter of intent that we have, that basically that allows us then to get your electric bills. We're going to hire an electrical contractor. I've been out to each of the sites. I think you maybe have 2 sites that look good. I forgot to put those on the slide. I've got a couple pictures of them here for you. The one here outside of this building would be on the, if I'm on the right, it's over on the solar panels would be south facing, and they would be ground mounted up against the trees in a row over here away from the parking lot. In the fire station, there'd be probably would be some, maybe in potentially 3 locations. The little outbuilding behind the fire station, the pitched roof on the east end of the fire station. Can't put it on the other end because there's trees over there that we shaded, and possibly some place there on the ground. If that is a reasonable place, that would be another discussion. So our contractor would need to come and look at the sites and evaluate them. Then if we feel like they're good sites, we will fill out the generation or the Green Power Providers application. We'll probably have to have someone from Middle Tennessee Electric come out to each of those sites and actually look to see how we would actually do the interconnect, because how they have the meters and the transformers may differ sometimes, and that information is critical to put on the application. So we've got to do all of that by the 15th. It is, you know, it is possible to get that all done, but it isn't quite as ominous as it probably sounds, but we'll be hurrying every minute. Now, the reason I say that is that if we don't make that deadline, it isn't like that this is still not necessarily a good program. And if you go to the next slide, I'll show you a little bit further. As I mentioned, we install, we operate, we maintain the system. One great thing about solar is there's no moving parts. There's kind of nothing to break. Once you put them out there, you know, it's pretty good thing. They last 35 to 40 years that they generate power. The manufacturers warranty the panels for 25 years power production. So it's something that really works. So you as the host, there's no expenditure for you. It's essentially like an equipment lease, so to speak. Once the system is installed in each location, TVA has a $1,000 incentive that they give you for being in the program, being in the Green Power Providers program. And actually, this is an error. The $65,000 actually is the next year's number. It would actually be your your share of the energy, your net, let's put it that way, it would be about $75,000 per system. So if we're able to do 2 of these systems, it'd be about $150,000 in energy savings over 20 years. Now, at the end of 20 years, you also own the system. So the next 10 years after that, that number will probably be $110,000 or $15,000 because there's no lease payment involved anymore of ownership of the system. And again, these should be producing power 35 to 40 years. It has a net effect of, it's like planting 1,800 trees when you put a 50 kilowatt system out there. So there's a lot of CO2 benefits and stuff for solar. It requires no water. It's just kind of an amazing thing that you can, that we're living at a time when the sun can actually make electricity. It's pretty cool. So here's what would need to happen if you all are interested in this, is we would need to get the non-binding letter of intent signed. We need that as quickly as possible so that we can get to our contractor and at our risk and our expense. We would need to get your electric bills for those 2 sites so that we can evaluate those. Then our contractor will go to the sites and determine if those sites are good. If they are both good, they'll engage Middle Tennessee Electric to come out and do the interconnect meeting. Then we will submit the application to TVA for the interconnect. It takes them about a month for TVA to get a response back. And if that all happens in this sequence, then you're still going to qualify this year for the 12-cent premium, which is really, that's kind of what everybody right now in the state is pushing for. The lease is typically 20 years. And again, we have, we'll have all the, believe me, our investors want all insured and, every component of it that we handle for the installation and the ongoing maintenance. It's important to us that the system produces, and it obviously would be important to you all as well. I think there's one other little slide in there, but that really is most of these are things I've already discussed. Questions? It's a quick solar lesson.
You did not mention that this pays the bills of those meters first, and then revenue second. That was
right. Here's the actual, as a practical matter, here's what happens. Each month right now, you get a bill from Middle Tennessee Electric. And it says, here's how many kilowatt hours you used, and at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and here's your bill. Once you have the TVA installs this second meter, because they'll come out when it's ready to energize and be turned on, and they'll install a separate meter that reads the power into the grid. So then on the Middle Tennessee Electric bill, there'll be a second line that will say Green Power Providers credits at 22 cents a kilowatt hour, and it'll tell you how many kilowatt hours that month you produced and how much that credit amount is. I think it looked like for this facility here, we're not sure exactly, but your probably average electric bills were $1,100 or $1,200 a month. So it's that's about the amount that this system will offset. So you're going to be real close to having a zero electric bill. And I do have a concern that it could be the other facility. We may not be able to put a 50 kilowatt. We'll have to determine if the investors want to do a smaller system or not. So that would be something we could determine.
So is the chance, even if we say we're interested in participating in additional information, they can deny us? That they can say we're not a match for this program?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. I would just tell you that, interestingly enough, a lot of the investors that we work with, the bigger the project, we've got one right now that's 22 buildings, that is real close to starting up. And that's $3.5 million. A lot of times, the bigger the better, to them. sounds amazing, but
Is that in Rutherford County
it's true.
schools you're speaking of?
That was actually in Murray County.
Murray County.
But, so here's what would happen, is once we've done the work, we've gotten to the point where we've submitted the application to Middle Tennessee Electric, we've got all the paperwork together, that has to be on the lease information. So then we submit that to the funders, and there's different people behind there that sometimes will do, because we're competing with other states and money all over the place, so to speak. Although this group are people who are just dedicated to solar. So they'll come back then and put together a lease document, and at that point, it'll have all the language in there, it'll have all the projection data, it'll have all of that in there, it'll have the lease, what the lease amount are. At that point then, if you decide to go forward and sign that, that would be the first time that you would actually be obligated to do anything. You know, up until then, you may look at it and decide, this looks stupid, this is not what he told me, and obviously, we don't want to try to portray some, this is a long drawn-out process if it is, so we don't, you know, try to waste anybody's time on things, but with the non-binding letter of intent, believe me, these funders are not going to just say, well, John Sturgeon said there's some people over in Fairview that want to do this. You know, that they have to have some kind of documents that look official with some official's name on it to proceed, because there is going to be some money exchanged before that for us to get the electrical contractor and some of these things that are done essentially at our risk.
Mr. Sturgeon, you've mentioned a couple of times the term lease, and I'm a bit confused on that part of it now. So let me kind of run through what my understanding is, and then you tell me where I'm missing the boat here. Okay, once this equipment is installed, the entire payment from TVA, be it 22 cents or 19 cents, whatever it is, will come back to the city.
Yes.
And we have no obligation to pay any of that to you, to these investors.
You would have an obligation to pay whatever that lease payment amount is out of that.
Right. So if the lease payment, and I'm just going to use small numbers because they're easier for my brain to process. If the lease payment for this equipment was $1,000 a month, and our light bill was $1,200 a month, and the 19 cents that we got for what this equipment generated, say we had a rainy season, and it didn't generate as much as we expected, say it only generated $800, then we would owe the difference on the power bill, the $400 difference on the power bill, plus the $1,000 for the lease equipment.
That's correct.
So, in the case of this building, given what you said, that at the size you're talking about and what we currently use, $1,200 a month, and you said it would generate, we would be about even. For this building to enter into this agreement, we would be looking at an expenditure probably of whatever the lease payment is. For purpose of my illustration, it's $1,000 a month. But if the lease payment was $20,000 a month or something to that effect, the city would be liable for making that lease payment to you or your investors. Is that correct?
Well, that is correct. However, because 30% of the lease payment is going to be based on a discounted, in other words, that we're going to apply 30% in essence discount. That's what makes this work, is that there's never a time, and you'll see this once we show you some numbers, that there's never a time that the system doesn't generate way more than what the lease payment is. And a big factor of that is that you're starting out with a 30% discount on the system that they have credited you because they know they're going to apply for their taxes on their end and earn that back.
Yeah, I understand,
and that's the only reason.
That. I understand
what you're saying is absolutely correct, is that if the system doesn't produce as much as your lease, you would be obligated for that. The only reason I'm even here is because that is not how, even close to how these numbers are working out. It wouldn't be in our benefit if it was that way either. So typically on one of these systems at 12 cents, it's gonna net probably about $3,900 per year per system, per 50 kilowatt system. And we'll provide for you so that you'll have some numbers you can look at this. So over 20 years, it's a net gain of, it's basically saving you about $75,000 in electric costs. Over 30 years, close to $200,000, without you having any capital outlay.
Except the lease payment. If it runs short, we have the lease payment that we're responsible for.
But you didn't come up with any capital.
Right, no initial capital outlay, but we would have obligation for 20 years.
Right. And the reason this model works is because of the tax incentives in the front end and the TVA payments being higher substantially higher than the lease payment.
Yeah, I understand why the investor wants it. I got that. I'm concerned about a contingent liability that a hailstorm comes through and we place it over here next to the park trees and the park trees all fall on top of it and it doesn't work for a month.
That's why we have insurance on it. We own the system.
Right, well, so the system is replaced, but even though it's replaced, I bet your insurance doesn't cover what TVA's payment would be.
I don't know about that. We can find out. They may want that in there.
Well,
I know our investors are probably asking, at the other end, are asking the same kind of questions,
Right.
Except that they've done lots of these, so they understand how, the realities of how it works.
In general speaking, how much does that 50 kilowatt system cost? What's the lease payment on it?
I don't have that here in front of me because it changes a little bit depending on how many systems that there are. But we will provide that to
Ballpark
you.
for me, are we 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 a month? What do we?
Oh, a month? Oh, no. I don't, I look at these for so many different sizes, they all over the place. But I'll get that to you tomorrow, so you can have that to look at.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. That was all I had.
Great questions. Anything else that?
Other discussion?
I guess my opinion after hearing the answers is that there's a lot more information that we would need before we could enter into any sort of binding agreement. 20 years is a long time to be in a lease for something, especially as fast as technology is changing. While solar is, I agree with the need to move toward the solar 20 years from now, I'm not sure what that'll look like. And we might have an antiquated system that was no longer producing what TVA wanted, or they might continue to lower the rate, which they're doing so. But
well, TVA, I would just say TVA actually gives you a 20-year contract, so they guarantee the rate. So that's the other reason the investors are they like this, because they do provide that.
In terms of a non-binding agreement where we could proceed and get more information and they would do this stuff, I think it's certainly worth taking the next step, but I don't. I have some concerns about, until we get a lot more information, that we would
Agree.
jump into the fire here.
So your interests are on agenda, discuss and or take action on the non-binding letter of intent. What are the wishes of the board?
Mayor?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, sir.
I just got to ask this question while he's
Sure.
here.
Okay.
Before we would go any further, too, we would need information that's compatible with our emergency generator. Because we actually have two systems. We have the TVA here, well, Middle Tennessee comes in, and there's a big transfer switch. If we lose Middle Tennessee, it goes to the generator. That everything's compatible with the emergency generator. That thing's going to kick on by itself. So I would need that.
Sure.
That would be something in the contracting and Middle Tennessee Electric and TVA discussion to make sure you're
Believe me,
covered
Middle
on
Tennessee
that.
Electric will be, they'll be all over that as well. All of this is done with following all the NEC electric codes and that sort of thing. So that's a good question.
Has Larry looked over the non-binding agreement?
Yes, I have. I don't have any problem with the non-binding agreement. All it does is allow them basically to go forward to get you the information at that time. Once you get the information before any designs or contracts are there, if you want to walk away, you can walk away. If they want to walk away, they can walk away.
Move to approve the non-binding agreement.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for your information, and
Thank you, Tom.
City Manager Hyatt will be working with you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 8D, discuss and or take action on school facility tax request. October 9th, in our handy-dandy local newspaper, there was an article that kind of broke my heart, and I brought it to City Manager Hyatt. We both have kids at the high school, so it hits home of, really? This is happening. I don't know if any of you seen it, but it was a band booster. This is why the item's on the agenda for our discussion, please. The band booster's working to keep music playing, and there was several comments in here. The fees paid by the students cover a small portion of their activities. They have fundraisers to keep up. They upkeep their own uniforms. They put gas in the buses, and they drive them, or they put gas if they have the bus, but they have to drive themselves to the activities. They have upcoming fundraisers. Nobody really addressed me directly, I want to say that up front, but this come to my attention of, is this something that our board would like to look at? I would like tonight to ask permission to go speak to the principals, as I've done before, and find out if there's a need in what we would consider, what did we call that? What do we call that?
Arts.
The arts and music, okay, kind of in that direction, and wanted to see what the wishes of the board were, or if that's something that you would like me to do to find out the needs in that department of our local schools.
Mayor, may I speak? I don't have any objection to that, except that I do know that many of the athletic teams do the exact same things. That football is pretty much self-sufficient, but the smaller, the tennis teams, the volleyball teams, the baseball teams sometimes, they have to provide their own transportation, they have to take care of their own uniforms, they have to do all of that themselves. So if we're going to consider this, and I don't have any problem with it, I think it's a good use of the money, but if we're going to consider this, then should we just make it extracurricular activities altogether, or should we just limit it to the arts? I think that's a conscious decision we have to make.
And I don't think it's a end-all conversation. I think it's just, as I said, a need was expressed, I thought, in the arts. I don't disagree with that, and we talked about that in length of there's several departments that may need assistance in any and all of the schools. And if a band is not in the elementary, what would they say? Would they have a chorus class need or an instrument need or something, to where we talked about that and we separated it from sports, but I do not mind. My question tonight is, can I talk to the principals about additional needs either in the arts, sports, or extracurriculum, and I'll let them discuss their needs back.
I just get it all. That's what I would do. And then we can make the decisions with all the information rather than trying to piecemeal it. That would be my suggestion. But
Is that a motion for me to have permission to discuss with the principals about needs?
That'd be fine with me, to make that motion.
We have a motion. Second. Discussion.
Is this going to be in this budget year? Or are you talking for next?
Well, the money is sitting in the facility
I
tax,
realize.
so it's not pulling out of the budget. It would be in the school facility tax that's existing currently.
Right, I understand that, but what my concern is, I thought one of the thought process is we had that money and each year we could do something for, and we've already done something this year, and if we spend it all now, then in the future, we're not gaining tax on it, and I mean, I know there's a little bit of money in there, but we've already spent a huge chunk, and we don't know what the future needs are. It's just something, I mean, I'm telling you, I can tell you 100% their arts are in desperate need. I see it all the time. You know, my daughter was in the show choir and drama club, and, you know, I've seen it. My sons were when they were in high school. I see it in elementary schools. They have chorus, like you're saying. And sports. They play sports too. I mean, our schools have needs. And the arts do tend to be one that gets overlooked. So I'm not saying, I mean, I think it's an excellent direction, but I'm just wanting clarification. If we decide this, if we go and fund it, what are we doing to the fund if we spend it all?
For clarification, the direction that I'm asking for this evening is just permission to discuss the need. At that point, I would share, maybe within the next 30 days, share the need with the board, and then that's where that discussion would come in, is it practical, is it the right timing, if so, how much, if so, what direction. Now that the needs have been presented, we would then discuss that as I bring that information back.
Well,
because I don't know one way or the other before we see the need.
Well, that would be fine, but I would say that any of us at any time could go speak to the schools and ask for needs, but we can't get their hopes up and act like we're going to commit money when we don't know. I mean, at any time, we should be talking to the schools. Matter of fact, we should do that anyway, you know, but...
Well, I didn't want to take authority and speak. I mean, I have talked to, at other meetings at the school, I have talked to them, and like the article is kind of what spurred it on.
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's a very, when you read that type of things, and I mean, I was just talking to the drama teacher when we had this, it was with middle school and high school. They had a wonderful presentation the other night with the music departments, and there's a huge need, but I'm just trying to find clarification. Are we talking this year, next year? Are we going to give them a false hope that we're going to, you know, empty the account?
I hear your concern, and I will make sure that in my conversation it's prefaced of this is just discussion, and I am coming to get information to bring back to the board.
Well, just if I may, Mayor, you know, during the discussion we had last year when we budgeted that money from the reserve account, which comes back to us from the county to use on local schools, that it was my understanding that we were obligated to do something with that money each budget year in a proportion-wise for what we're getting in, so we keep keep it funded constantly, so that we don't say we're going to spend 95% on one thing. So that was my understanding with it, and that's the reason I don't have a problem with just getting the feedback from what they might need, because we're going to have to discuss it sometime or another anyway, or somebody is.
Well, where did we get the direction that we had to spend a portion? I thought that was just an agreement that we, that we wanted to keep giving every year.
Exactly.
We're not obligated.
We're not obligated for
Spend
nothing.
any of it,
But that was the general discussion that because we want, that's what I want to do. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but.
I think everyone does understand by now, after 2 years of budget talk, I am very conservative and do not want to be frivolous with the money. If there is a need, I would just like to find out and address it. That is my request. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Mayor, if I may, it's my understanding that should they ever build a school in Fairview or start to do that, they will come get that money. That's what it is for. Otherwise, we can use it for, and I believe we did discuss last year that we would try not to spend no more than what we bring in every year now that we've got a balance, and we anticipate a balance of about $277,000 at the end of this fiscal year.
I believe we spent about $80,000 last year.
All great points, and I will take all that into consideration. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 8E, discuss and or take action on upgrading communications. Director Lavorne?
I'm not going to ask you to take any action because I didn't have anything to put in your packets, but I've been working on a communications solution for the past 6 or 8 months. After the floods in 2010, this building was without phone service for 13 days. And customer service was none because we didn't have any phone service. Looking at a solution to help us in cases of natural disasters, and trying to get, right now we've got service through Black Box, service through AT&T, service through Windstream, and service through Comcast that provides internet and phone service for this building. And to try to consolidate it into one entity servicing us for all of those aspects of communication, I come in contact with Windstream, which is one of the entities that actually provides service for us now. They can provide the total service for us. And as we was doing the upgrades to the commission chambers and trying to get the meetings streamed over the internet, we come to a standstill because we don't have enough bandwidth to allow the streaming of the meetings over the internet. With Windstream, they will come in and bring in a T1 line into this building, which will upgrade our internet service to a 3 meg line that would give us the capabilities to stream our video. And the solution for our communications as far as phone service would be a VoIP service, which would be a voice over internet phone system. And it operates in the cloud. So anywhere that you've got internet service, you can manage the phone system. So if this building happens to go down in a natural disaster or something other, we can reroute the phones to cell phones from that system. We can forward those numbers on. We didn't have that capability back during the floods because AT&T's lines or their transfer station was underwater, so you couldn't even transfer lines or forward them to cell phones. This would give us the capabilities to do that, and it would upgrade this building, the Nature Center, and the Public Works building. And we had included the fire station, but in our staff meeting today, it was brought to our attention that the fire station is completely wireless, and we didn't know if this would be compatible with the fire station. So if we wanted to include the fire station, we'd have to make sure that it was compatible. But like I said, I wouldn't ask you to take any action, but I would ask you, would you like for Windstream to come in, because it's their company, their business, they know a lot more about it than I do. They can explain it a lot better, what the solution is. We can have them at your next meeting to give a formal presentation if you choose, if you want to, and proceed this way. I think it'll help us in customer service. Right now, if somebody calls in and really needing the part, we have to tell them to hang up and call the part. We can't transfer them. This system would allow us to transfer the calls to any building, city building that we have in the city. For far as voicemails and things of that nature, because it is a VoIP, the voicemails can be forwarded to emails. And so if the directors are out of the office and we're getting voicemails on our phones, it comes directly to our smartphones, and we can reply away from the office. So that helps a little bit better with customer service.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Okay. Well, I'll have them scheduled to come in on the 15th to give you a presentation.
Just one little caveat, while we do have a little difficulty streaming live over the internet, we do record it and place it on our website, and you can go back and look at it. So it's just a live thing that might be a little trouble now, but this would help solve that problem.
I'll download that on my phone, and I no longer have a battery. It just took the whole thing up.
Thank you.
But it did work very well.
Other comments? Any other comments? No. Moving on, 8F in new business. Let's see, which one did I add?
School zone.
Yeah, add, discuss and/or take action of the school zone signage. I'd like to make a motion to give this to the Public Safety Committee.
Second.
First and second, discussion. And along with our, my full-time sign job, it's a full-time taking calls on the sign and the school zone and the tickets. So at that point, I believe that the safety committee may need to look at this. It's getting a life of it's growing legs. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 8G, discuss and/or take action of the Walmart Development Agreement changes. Director LaVorn.
Mr. Sean Henry is here representing Walmart. The document that I had sent you out yesterday in an email is our standard site development agreement that everybody that develops a site in Fairview has to sign, stating that they're going to construct a project according to plans that have been approved by the Planning Commission. Walmart wanted to add some language into it dealing with the bonds at what time they would be released, and I had conversations with Mr. Henry and told him that I had a problem with what they had submitted to us and asked him to make changes to that. And what he's got in there, the language that he's got in there now, goes along with our subdivision regulations on the release of bonds, that the site bond will be reduced at the time construction is completed, would be reduced to a maintenance bond for the landscaping, and that bond would not exceed 30% of the original value of the bond. That goes along with our subdivision regulations. The street bond is in there, that once construction is completed, that bond will convert to a maintenance bond and would be reduced to no less than 50%. Our guidelines for and our subdivision regulations states that it won't be reduced any less than 10%. So that gives us enough information there that we would fall in between the 10 and 50%. And it also stipulates that bond will be set by the city engineer. I was comfortable with those changes. Talked to City Attorney Cantrell. He said he was fine with that. And Walmart's just asking that we include that language in the contract. And being it's a contract that this board approved, you have to approve the changes.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion?
Mayor, if I might, I received both the original document that was presented to Mr. Henry, and I also received the one with the proposed amendments. I did speak with Don, and the finished product I have no problem with. I've known Mr. Henry longer than he or I, either one, will admit to. He sent it over, and what it basically does is it tailored some of the language in there that was general language to be specific to this project. Generally, I don't object to those type of things. The general language would get you there. If the customer is satisfied with a little bit of tailoring of our agreement, it doesn't cost the city anything. They've been good to work with so far, and so I looked at it and I said, well, I don't have a problem with it because it doesn't take anything away from us. It gives us what we asked for. It also gives them the satisfaction of having it tailored to do some of the things that say in specific language what they wanted rather than the general language. And I had responded to Mr. Henry and said I don't have any problem with it and would so advise the board tonight. And I do not have a problem with it.
Thank you. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Could I ask you one question? That's how we're with. When are you going to put a sign up?
When?
Yes.
Well, today, Walmart went through a soft internal closing at their headquarters in Bentonville.
Great.
Monday is the hard closing where the money will get transferred. They're going to put it out to bid at the end of this month for a contractor, and I expect certainly first quarter, maybe as early as January, we'll have a contractor. We'll be ready for that pre-construction meeting, and then I would expect the sign would probably come up, Walmart coming soon.
Just something soon. It'd be great.
It'll probably be first quarter.
Okay.
Make sure the sign doesn't flash or have any bright lights.
Now, he's got 6 months, don't worry about it.
We've already got the sign approved,
He
so.
can have it oversized and flashing
For
till
6 months.
summer.
Got to get 6 months.
Okay, we have city manager items for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of good things happening around here. Obviously, the 840 opening is important. We're getting a lot of phone calls from interested parties. I get phone calls from newspaper reporters with the Tennessean almost on a daily basis lately about rumors they're hearing about 840 interchange, and I can neither confirm nor deny because I haven't spoken to the same people that they are getting these rumors from. So if it's some of the things that they're saying are true, there's some things going to happen down there. Also, with Mr. Holsinger coming on board, we're doing. He's jumped in with both feet. I have to, give him some accolades about that, and he's already started to do some efficiency studies to make sure we're doing things in the appropriate manner and doing things as efficient as possible. We'll get a report probably at the next meeting from the park employees about the Fall Fun Day and the Haunted Forest. We had great attendance at both, great weather almost at the Haunted Forest, but great attendance, especially the Fall Fun Day. It was really, really well received. I was really impressed with staff, how they put that on, and just the whole concept of where it was located at the Dome. I had a lot of positive comments about that, and so that was really a thumbs up to that staff. They did a great job, and the staff that worked with the Haunted Forest, everybody, fire, police, parks, community services, city finance staff, just everybody pulled together, and it was really great to see the way that works, and we're really, really pleased with the outcome and the participation. And I even understand, even last night we didn't have any incidences on Halloween night, so I'm sure Terry will speak to that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Time for staff comments.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Planning Department, we have reviewed a vacation of a plat for the Industrial Park subdivision, Lot 6 of the Industrial Park on Black Pine Road. It will be on the Planning Commission's agenda for the 13th, and if the Planning Commission approves the vacation of that plat will have to come to this board to be voted on whether or not the city signs off on the plat. Subdivision regulations requires that if you vacate a parcel of property out of a subdivision, everybody that owns property within that subdivision has to sign the plat. Woman has got a contract on the property. She wants to vacate it and have it rezoned to residential. The only way that she can rezone it to residential is if it's vacated from the plat and no longer part of the industrial park. And that will be on the Planning Commission's agenda next month, or next 2 weeks from now. The building...
Don, if I may, before you move on to something else, does it take 100% approval from the people in there, or 51%?
100%. Every single person that owns property has to sign off on the plat, or it doesn't get recorded.
Okay.
The Building Permit Department issued 13 building permits for the month of October. The total construction cost or value of those permits was $1,325,175.50. Issued 21 electrical permits. The complaint department received 2 complaints. We forwarded those to the appropriate department for resolution. Fielded 32 calls for service-related orders and forwarded those to the proper department for work to be completed. The Building Codes Department reviewed 1 commercial building plan for compliance, completed 44 building inspections, issued 3 certificate occupancies. The Codes Violation Department received 10 complaints for the month of October. 10 letters of violations were sent out, 3 letters of failure to comply, and no citations written.
Thank you. Other staff comments?
Mayor, I do have a couple more things. I want everyone to be aware of Chester Road next week. We're going to be doing some paving, finishing that project that's there, so that is coming, so that will be next week. I'm not sure which day. We think it's Tuesday, but just let everyone know. And also the hurricanes in the Northeast. I mean, we have some devastation that really happened up there, and having lived through some hurricanes, the pictures do no justice. When you're sitting here and we got the power, and they're out of power for 2.5, 3, 4 weeks, and at this time of the year, it's really tough. So if you believe in prayer, just remember those folks up there.
The police department took 774 calls last month, and we did not have any problems with anybody getting bothered last night. There was a few complaints, but don't trick-or-treat. People would leave their cars in the middle of the road and go trick-or-treating, and we don't allow that. So, but everything went great. No kids hurt. That's our main objective. We had 14 wrecks, 2 with injuries last month, and 12 minor wrecks, and the minor wrecks are like parking lot wrecks.
Wasn't 7 of those that one wreck?
Yes.
So you classified them as individual, but there were 7 cars involved in
Yes.
it? Okay.
Any questions?
You mean the one at Tractor Supply?
Yes, sir.
From the sign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like with no lights,
Right.
no lighted signs within view.
No, they were flipping signs down by the road. Poster board signs.
Chief Cooper, go ahead. Staff
Thank you, ma'am.
comments?
We had 66 calls we answered last month. The city manager mentioned the time change. It's something else that happens when you change your clocks in the fall. What else do you do? Change the batteries in your smoke detectors. That's the cheapest insurance you can have. If you're infirm, elderly, have something out there and you can't get to that battery, call us. We'll come out there and change the battery for you.
Sweet.
Not too long ago, because it is the fall and this was stuck in our mind, we had an ambulance call. Got over there, the ambulance and the firemen were attending. I noticed the smoke detector was laying on the bookshelf. And I said, well, hey, we need to hang this up. She was old as the hills. Can't do it. Ambulance people carted her off, and mysteriously that smoke detector got mounted before we left and locked the place up. So change those batteries. Something else too, if you have the hardwired, there's a little lithium battery in there. It's good for 10 years. That's the lifespan of a smoke detector is 10 years. They're not good forever. And sometimes you'll hear them chirp at you, even though there's no battery in it to change. That's telling you it's at the end of its service life. So 10 years, get that thing changed, or if it's battery operated, let's keep a battery in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other staff comments? City attorney comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on one thing that Commissioner Carroll had tonight when we were talking about the Sovereign Immunity and Torts Claim Liability Act and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is the subject of a major portion of law school, and I'm not going to try to go through the whole thing here tonight, but I was proud to see the board pass the part about the signs on first reading. We will get that amended, but sign ordinances and sign enforcement spawns more litigation and more heartache and more hard feelings than most anything in city government. But the reason I say I'm glad that you passed it, normally, you instruct me to prepare an ordinance, and as long as it's legal, we prepare it. But this one gives you something to the thing that a city as a board or as a city per se cannot prevail on is some sort of callous indifference. The Tort Claims Liability Act was primarily designed to cover things such as a failure to do something that you didn't know about, a negligent action not approaching gross negligence. I think classic example, we've all seen sidewalks that over a period of years, the heat and the expansion causes them to buck. Well, somebody may fall on that and you didn't know it was there. And that's what it's primarily designed for, to cover those things. You can't possibly patrol every sidewalk, every road, and as the city gets larger, it gets more impossible to patrol them 24 hours a day. But we don't want, for just general humanitarian purposes, to be callously indifferent. And certainly a move in a direction of getting this under control to have some level of lights that's tolerable to the public and still allows the person to advertise their business is the desire. And as I said, what might be offensive to one person might not be offensive to somebody else, but the amount of light that you're talking about here, the 7,500 nits, seems to be generally within the acceptable range across the country. Are there people that allow more? Yes. Are there people that don't tolerate as much? Yes. But what you're looking at is something that it doesn't in and of itself create a hazard, and I applaud the board for getting started on this at a time when these things are getting started and can get out of hand. Every city in America has this same type of a problem. How much are we going to allow? What's enough without being too much? But we don't want to get into a situation. The best thing to do is get it under control and allow the person to advertise his business and not have any indication of a safety hazard. Can somebody come out sometime and say, I don't care what the level was that you had, it caused me to wreck? Sure they can. But you want to be in a position where you can, one, defend it, and two, feel like that you took every reasonable precaution. It's not reasonable to just say we're going to ban all signs. You can't advertise your business. You took every reasonable precaution to protect your citizens, to protect the traveling public who comes through, who doesn't live here, and yet allow the person to operate his business. And I just wanted to touch back on that again, that while you do have some sorts of immunity, it's not being cold and calloused and say that, okay, we got immunity, we're not going to worry about it. Because you might find out you didn't have immunity, and that's always a shock. And the second thing is, it's just not, as a guy said one time, it's just not the right thing to do. I remember telling a jury one time, go out and do what's right by this man. And even if you don't have to do something, you need to do what you feel is right. And I think what we've started to pursue on that is a good step in the right direction. And we'll get there. Will we ever get to where we won't have any complaints about the sign ordinance? No, we won't. But maybe we'll get something that everybody can live with. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, communications from the commissioners, and I will request no political comments, please. To engage in soliciting of votes in your official capacity could be a violation of the ethics law. Communication from the commissioners. Commissioner Carroll.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Just one thing. When we were talking, I called you by your first name, and I apologize. I should not have done that. I should have called you Mayor. Please accept my apology.
Agreed. Accepted. Other discussion?
No.
Commissioner Sutton?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. When I first started this, there was not that much participation from the audience. Sometimes there wouldn't be anybody, sometimes one or two. And lately, we've had a great deal of participation, and we need that as part of our guidance. Just to let the mayor know that my phone rings all the time. And my wife is very quick to give out wherever I'm at to whoever wants to call me, and I want to. So, say a prayer for all the people in the disaster area. It's millions of people, and they need our prayers. Don't forget our men and women overseas defend this country. That's it.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing, man. Thank you.
I'd like to re-invite everyone tomorrow, 1:30 to 2, at the Fairview Loves 840 celebration. Now, keep in mind, it is a motorcade. They are leaving Carter's Creek Pike, coming 840 this way. So do hope that time frame makes everybody perfectly at the right place at the right time. But we're celebrating tomorrow a great milestone, a moment in history, a moment in time. I do hope that you celebrate with us tomorrow at the exit, or take an opportunity for a drive over the weekend on our well-deserved, long-planned 840 Interstate open. Thank you for your participation. Have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.